What is the second best time to buy a property? Well, if you bought a property 10 plus years ago, that's phenomenal. You're probably pretty happy with your purchase at this point. But the second best time to buy a property, if you can't buy a property in the past, is to buy one today. My name is Chatto, and I've been a landlord for over 25 years, and I understand how important it is to have a rental or maybe a few rentals as part of your retirement portfolio. So let's have a quick chat with Chatto about acquiring your first rental property. So I think it's extremely important that you purchase a rental property at least by the time you're 30 to add to your retirement plan. Just think about it. If you purchase one house and you purchase something today for, I don't know, $250,000. So you buy a property for $250,000 today. 30 years from now, I can't predict the future, but it's going to be worth more, and probably a lot more. I wouldn't be surprised if it's doubled in price. So you will now have a house, an asset that is now worth $500,000. If you just get the mortgage and pay it off 30 years from now, it's free and clear, right? So you have a property, it's free and clear. And now that it's free and clear, rents right now are, I don't know, $2,000, $2,500 for a decent house. And what are they going to be in the future? $4,000, $4,500, $5,000 a month. So if you have that property free and clear, you're bringing in pretty close all cash flow, minus your taxes, minus your insurance, right? So it's huge to have that's one property. Imagine if you bought two or three. That's $1 million probably, free and clear in your retirement, aside from putting money in your 401k and blah, 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 anything else. Just having 1, 2, 3 rentals is a huge, huge boost to any retirement portfolio. So I'm going to give you my story a little bit. I'm going to keep it short, but I graduated in 98. I graduated luckily in a career that was extremely hot, so to speak. It was easy to get a job. I was a high paying job. And so I graduated in 98, 99. I'm like, oh man, why am I paying rent? I'm watching these late night infomercials on real estate. I'm like, you know what? Buy a house. So I talked to a friend of mine who's a realtor. I'm like, yeah, I want to buy a house. Oh, I get an FHA loan, 3% down. I'm like, oh, 3% down. That's great. And I was running the numbers. I thought my budget was like 100, 120, something like that. And he comes to me with a 3-unit property in a town that I really wanted to be in for 170. And I was like, oh, wow, 170. I was like, oh, my mind was like, how can I pay 170,000 for a house? And I did it. I bought this house. It was a 3-unit. I remember it was an FHA loan, 3% down. And I was living with a roommate. So we both moved into this place. And now he's paying me rent. And I'm living on the first floor. Second floor had tenants. Third floor had tenants. And as time went on, tenants moved out, rents went up, put new tenants in at a higher amount. I was living initially very cheap, a couple $100 a month to live. And then once I got a couple new tenants and turned things over, next thing you know, I'm living for free. Like, what a deal. That was awesome. So that's just like an example of how you can get started, right? So that's a little bit about my story, and I want to kind of see what I can do to support you, because I just see the value in it, in getting your first rental property at least this year. Come on, let's get you a property. So number one, it helps, not 100% necessary, but it helps a lot if you have good credit. If you have 720 plus, that's great, right? You need good credit. The better your credit is, the better, easier it is to borrow money to buy an asset like a property. If your credit is not at 720, like now, ASAP, start working on getting your credit together. You need to get that done. You need to have good credit. The second thing is you need to have reserves. If something goes, like just Wednesday, we get a no heat call. We send out the contractor. Heater's 25 years old. It's going to cost you $6,000 to replace it. Okay, do it. They need heat. They need heat. It's 20 some degrees out. Let's get it done. So I was able to get that done quickly, and I had the reserves in the account to get it done. So reserves are important. Now, in the beginning and as you're growing, you may not always have a lot of reserves. And not that I'm suggesting using credit, but if you at least have access to credit, something, God forbid something happens at the property and you need to replace a water heater ASAP, you need to replace a heater ASAP, you have tenants involved, you need to take care of them. Now, if you're not good with credit, don't get yourself a whole bunch of credit because you're just going to rack it up and it's going to be a whole big issue for you. But if you can be responsible with it, it may be something to consider as part of your reserves, as part of your plan, as part of just like another option if things go wrong, a resource to get money. Another thing you want to think about is the cash flow is not necessarily, especially if you have a full-time job, W-2 income, the cash flow is not always the most important thing. You're getting the depreciation, you're getting all these other write-offs. As cash flow comes in, let it sit in the account. You have you have a bank account specifically for that property or that LLC, depending on how you buy it, and let it grow. We have a property and bought it with a partner, and we have this property, and we don't take out any cash flow unless there's at least $10,000 in the bank account. Because if anything happens, nobody wants to put money out of pocket, right? It's in the reserve. It's in the reserves. If something happens, we need to put a new roof on. Okay, that costs us $5,000, whatever the case may be. I'm making up numbers, but now we go from 10,000 down to 5,000. We don't take out any cash flow until it builds back up, right? So you need reserves. So once you get that property, don't spend the cash flow. Don't spend it. Build up your reserves because you need reserves, and you don't want to be using credit for that if you don't have to. So first question I'm going to ask you is, do you currently rent or do you live in a house? Because if you rent, like, there is absolutely no reason you shouldn't go out and buy a house. Even if it's not like the ideal house, the forever house that you want to live at forever, right? If you have good credit, you should be able to get a FHA loan, 3% down, low money down loan, and get into a property. In 2005, we wanted to be in a specific school district. I went out and purchased a house in that school district at the time, which was top dollar. I remember paying $200,000 for this property. I moved out eventually, got into my forever home, so to speak. And the important point that I want to make is today, so I bought that house in 2005. So 21 years later, that house is now worth, I paid $200 for it. It's worth at least $400, if not more. The mortgage is paid way down, right? So I have a lot of equity. And if now that it's the rents have gone up, it's cash flowing over $1,000 a month. So it's like buying that house at market value in 2005, 21 years later, right, gives me $1,000 a month in cash flow and a huge amount of equity. It's amazing. So if you don't own a house that you live in, I mean, if you're a renter, buy a house. Like, just go out and buy a house. It's the best thing you can do. And then when you move into the house that you actually want, your forever house or a better house or whatever the case may be, you keep that property and you keep it as a rental. And you got good interest rate because you bought it with as an owner-occupied property. You had low money down. It's just, if you're a renter, buy a house just to live there, right? I'm not saying to, go out and buy a house as a rental and saying you're an owner-occupied. No, go there, live there for a couple of years, let it go up in value, and then when you find the house that you want, instead of selling it and buying a new one, keep it and rent it and buy the next one. Also, if you are living in a house, if it's not the house you want, maybe go buy the house you want and rent out the one you're in, right? Maybe that's an option. Or if it's kind of not really the house you want, and you can't find the house you want right now, or you can't afford the house you want right now, just buy another one. Move every couple of years. Like, can you imagine if every let's say every 5 years you moved, right? And you did that a couple times, right? You start when you're 30 years old. Hopefully you start younger than that, but you start when you're 30, you buy a house, you live there for 5 years, you move out, you buy another house, rent that one out, do it again. You have 3 houses now in your rental portfolio, and hopefully by the time you get that 4th house, it's your forever house. I don't know. Imagine if you started that at 20. How awesome would that be? So that's what I wanted to talk about, if you live in a house versus if you're renting. Now, if you're living in the house you want to be in and you don't want to move, great. Stay put. Go out and buy a rental. But in order to do that, you need to figure out how you're going to fund the deal. Obviously, cash is king. If you have your own cash, awesome. Do it. I wouldn't keep the cash in the property, but to purchase the house, use cash because you're going to get a better deal. You're not going to have a financing contingency. You're not going to have, it's just going to be, the seller is going to know it's a quick and easy deal. It's a cash deal, and you're probably more likely to get it accepted and pay a lower price. But if you don't have your own cash, which is cool, you don't need any of your own cash to buy property, but we're not going to get overly into creative financing and all the other stuff. There's something in today's day and age called a DSCR loan, debt service coverage ratio loan. And you may want to look at, talk to some local brokers, especially ones that maybe are recommended through real estate investment associations, but talk to them about what the rules are around a DSCR loan. How much of it, is it going to be 80% that they're going to cover, up to 80% of the purchase price? I don't know. You got to see what it is, but you can actually get financing going into a rental property with a DSCR loan. You're going to need a little money down though, so you're going to have to figure that out. But that's a way to purchase a property. Now, we already spoke about if you don't have a property, getting an owner-occupied loan, an FHA loan, low money down. Another thing to consider is private money, right? So you may not have your own cash to purchase the property, but you may know someone who does, and you may know someone who doesn't even realize that they know they have the money. And this isn't a class on or a video on raising private money. That's a completely different discussion. But that being said, we purchased a lot of properties using other people's money, using private money. And the big thing about that is it's the same as cash. So you're going in with a strong cash offer, right? And because you're going in with a good cash offer, you're able to get it at a discount. So you get it at a discount, you purchase the property over 6 months to a year, you fix it up if you need to, you get it performing the best you can, and then you go out and get that loan, that DSCR loan, for 80%. Now it's not 80% of the purchase price, it's 80% of what it is worth, right? And if you can build some equity in and get a good deal that has some equity, now you can go get that DSCR loan, pay off the private lender. The private lender is now no longer making money because they were making money while you had it. Now they got their money back. They got to figure out what to do with it. They say, hey, how about I buy another house? And now you just use their money again. You buy another house, get another loan, pay the guy back, and repeat the process. Also, right, another form of another resource to get cash, and you need to be very careful with it. It could be a double-edged sword, but if you use business lines of credit or business cards, if you have good credit, you can raise a good amount of available credit or business line of credit. You can raise a good amount of capital that you can use through these business cards and business lines of credit if your credit's good. So that's just like another potential way to get some money for a down payment. So that being said, you got to be careful with it. If you're not good with credit cards and you're not good with credit, don't do it. But that's just another way that you can go about funding the deal. So now you have, you kind of have an idea of how you want to get started, what kind of property you want to buy, and how you're going to fund it, right? Now that that's figured out, you got to find a deal, right? So like if you're looking for a place that you're going to live in, whether it's a single or a multifamily, like you can go with a realtor. Just buy something on the market with an FHA loan. You're going to pay top dollar. As long as it cash flows, you're going to be okay in 30 years, right? As part of your retirement portfolio. And it will get you started. Another thing you can do is join investment groups. They will, there's deals that get passed around in investment groups. Go to these meetings. A lot of times, depending on your area, you can find what's called wholesalers. And these are guys that operate like a realtor, but they're not a realtor. Long story, I'm not getting into wholesaling right now, but a lot of rental type properties and a lot of investment properties are purchased through a wholesaler. So that's like another option to learn how that works. Now, a wholesaler is not going to allow you to buy a property with a DSCR loan. They're not going to allow you to buy a property with a FHA loan. You might be able to use what's called a hard money loan, which is another funding option that's extremely expensive. But you can buy a property through a wholesaler if you have the money raised with private capital or you have your own cash. And that's where you're going to get the deepest discount on deals. They try to find properties really, really cheap and sell them cheap. So that's that. So hopefully this was of value to you. I really encourage you to go out and get your first rental this year. It's going to be such a game changer for your overall retirement portfolio. And as always, like, comment, subscribe for the algorithm. Let's have some comments below. We can have a conversation. And thanks for watching another episode of Chat with Chatto.